I say it's realistic because it will do this in a way that will be advantageous to both Americans and Canadians.
Lots going on here today. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we've got a bunch of updates here from throughout the week. Some more stuff coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. Pierre Poilievre having a new plan to push back against the auto tariffs. Also a loophole that the Liberals put in, a back door to give them access to the American market. Not very elbows up for Mark Carney, is it? Let's jump into this. We've got this one from the National Post. 1 in 4 Canadian employees now works for the government. Share of public employment reaches levels of unsustainability. Last year hit before the 1990s debt crisis. Yeah, it's time to bring the bureaucracy down. On top of that, we've got Canadians lost more than an estimated $4.2 billion in wages productivity in 2025, coming from the Fraser Institute. Trump's making big deals, getting a new refinery built, which is what we need here in Canada. And meanwhile, we've got 4.2 billion wages and productivity loss in Canada. We've got Trending Politics posting this one here. Jolie announces $900 million for defense innovation, including $500 million for Bombardier drones. I have a strong feeling that Brookfield is tied in with the defense innovation because Mark Carney brought in his buddy Doug Guzman from Goldman Sachs, Harvard, RBC guy, as the chief executive officer of the Defense Investment Agency. This RBC banker knows nothing about defense and defense procurement, but he needs a right-hand man in this position for a reason. If I were a betting man, Brookfield is going to be involved in some sort of military contracts from the government of Canada. Moving ahead, we've got Embrandt with this one. Liberals donated NASAMS for Ukraine, not ourselves, says Canada's donation of new air defense system arrives in Ukraine. Wow, look at that. Isn't there one problem? But aren't the Americans coming to invade us and they're going to take over our land? Shouldn't we have those in Canada? This doesn't make any sense. I thought Mark Carney said that Donald Trump was going to come steal our water and steal our land. I mean, we even have this article that's being pushed around from MSN.com saying rising tensions push Canada to prepare for U.S. clash. This is ridiculous. Ottawa has modeled out how to fight back if attacked. Talks initiated by Donald Trump about possibly making Canada the 51st state of the United States have sparked significant unease across Canada. Blah, blah, blah. This is propaganda. Moving ahead, Melissa posting this. Holy crap, they're closing the airspace above and around the U.S. consulate in Toronto on the upcoming Al-Quds Day for obvious reasons. So to recap here, I didn't cover this on the channel, but there was somebody pew-pewed the U.S. consulate in Toronto, and now they're closing the airspace.
It should also be noted that there will be restricted airspace above and around the United States consulate this weekend, I think for obvious reasons.
Canada's just become so safe, hasn't it? How many sleeper IRGC agents are there in Canada? And while we're talking about this, we've got this out of America. 2 terror lord attacks were carried out in the U.S. We've got Mohammed Jolla from Sierra Leone pew-pewed 3 people at Old Dominion University in Virginia, ending 1 person, and a Lebanese man carried out a vehicle ramming and pew-pewed people at a Israeli synagogue, which I believe what this footage is from. Yeah, it says an Israel temple down here. So yeah, and here's another angle here. Look how many cop cars. This is crazy.
Have their phones out, calling people. Obviously, everyone just waiting for answers, waiting for some kind of information to come from this. But again, yes, the Chaldean Cultural Center, that is the...
This is insane. The clapback that's coming from Iran, whether it's citizens that were in favor of the Ayatollah or IRGC agents, in the case of the university students that were attacked, they got the guy with their bare hands. They clobbered the guy with their bare hands until he was no longer existing on this planet, as they should have done.
How was he deceased?
There were students in that room that subdued him and rendered him no longer alive. I don't know how else to say it, but they basically were able to terminate the threat.
So he was not shot?
He was not shot.
Crazy Islamic attacker went around to the university, pew-pewed people, and the students clobbered him into the nether realm. Heroic, they should get some medals for that. Moving ahead, we've got this from Canada Proud. Mark Carney's Buy Canadian policy was revealed to contain an exemption for crown corporations, which are allowed to hire foreign suppliers. Is this elbows up? This is ridiculous. So this is coming from Blacklock's reporter, which we see here. Feds made patriotic loophole. Prime Minister Mark Carney's Buy Canadian policy doesn't apply to crown corporations hiring suppliers outside the country, says a federal memo. The Prime Minister omitted the fact when urging Canadians to support home industries. Is Mark Carney in it for Canadians? There's always another loophole. Early indications from the Treasury Board suggest procurement conducted outside of Canada will be excluded from the policy as part of the exemption, said the November 28th memo by the Department of Foreign Affairs. The department will confirm this once the policy is finalized and released publicly. They hid this from Canadians. It's just more lies. It goes on to say at the bottom, Francois Philippe Champagne made no mention of waivers for crown corporations in touting the policy in public, being quoted saying, "The thing that matters the most to us is to really implement our Buy Canadian policy, at the federal and provincial and municipal level," he told reporters on December 1st. "Even as consumers, our biggest power is our purchasing power." They say that in public, but then in reality, they put a loophole in there because Carney needs a backdoor for Brookfield. So jumping over to Windsor, we got Pierre Poilievre doing a press conference, coming out with a good strategy here. They're putting together a plan to try getting rid of the auto tariffs. This is applying pressure to Mark Carney, who's trying to destroy our auto industry, help boosting the Chinese one and the American one with those EV mandates.
Every day and in every way. And that's why the four of us are headed north to Detroit. I know that's counterintuitive.
Right, you're right.
Going north to the United States in order to meet with auto industry executives, state senators and representatives, and other business interests to fight for tariff-free automobile trade across this river and across our border. We will be making the case that both Detroit and Windsor are stronger when we trade together. And Sunday, we will be back here in Windsor to make a proposal to renew and rebuild the Auto Pact with a plan that will allow both the United States and Canada to grow their domestic production and repatriate our industry to our country so that our people have paychecks and our national industrial base is stronger than ever. These are all things that Mark Carney promised a year ago, and he has not delivered. It was all an illusion. Let's look at Mr. Carney's real record after a year in office. He promised the strongest economy in the G7. He's given us the only shrinking economy in the G7. And we have the second highest unemployment in the G7. Today, we got the terrible news that 84,000 Canadians lost their jobs last month, a devastating jobs report, the result of in part of Mark Carney's liberal failures and continued job-killing liberal policies that have made our economy the weakest in the G7. We are saddened to see that Canada is in the weakest position after a year of Mark Carney, because it is true, we do have global problems, so we cannot discount or try to control what President Trump does. But all the countries are facing those tariffs. None of them have a shrinking economy like we do under Mark Carney here in Canada.
So I think this is a smart move by Pierre. He's basically coming up with a plan, putting it forward, and this applies pressure to Mark Carney because he doesn't really seem to care about saving the auto sector. As I mentioned, he's trying to help the Chinese and the American auto sectors. But I mean, you got to look where Carney's got his money invested. He doesn't care about Canada, so obviously this makes sense from Carney's angle. And side note, I don't know what's going on up here, this color-changing roof, but I think these are lights up here. So it'll be interesting what comes from this, because Pierre's going to be bringing in different senators from America and putting together a plan. At the very least, it shows Pierre in a light that he's trying to help Canada, because Carney's not doing this. This can only be better for his image. Jumping to the question section here, Pierre's asked for details on this plan.
Well, Mr. Poilievre, Taylor Cable with the Windsor Star. How will your auto pact proposal benefit residents, auto workers, and the greater community in Windsor and Essex County?
Thank you. Very important question. In 2 days, I'll be back here to lay out the specifics. But effectively, what it does is it eliminates it would align our regulations with the U.S. It would take the GST off Canadian-made automobiles, and it would make a realistic proposal to eliminate tariffs for the sale of Canadian automobiles in the United States of America. But it will do this, I say it's realistic because it will do this in a way that will be advantageous to both Americans and Canadians. And that is why I believe we can get the Americans to accept this proposal.
I understand you're making a trip north of the border.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Have you already had any conversations with American counterparts in these sectors, and is there an appetite for what your proposal suggests?
We have been speaking to American businesses and legislators. I have not given them the specific proposal yet because I want Canadians to hear it first. But we have carefully studied what the American auto industry is looking to achieve. and we have calibrated a plan that will allow us to repatriate and massively increase our auto production on this side of the border, while at the same time making it attractive to the United States on the other side of the border. And that's why we believe this is not only a realistic plan to rebuild our auto sector, it is literally the only hope of keeping our auto sector in Canada.
You hear that? He wants Canadians to hear this first. Meanwhile, Carney doesn't even tell Canadians that Iran attacked our base in Kuwait. Moving ahead, Shazzy Goli posting this one. We've got a 2022 purchase of this home here in Brampton, Ontario, $2.13 million. Sale in 2026, $1.35 million. That's a $785,000 loss, or as he points out, 37% of home equity wiped out. Just out the window, completely gone. This is Justin Trudeau's legacy. Just destroying people's bank accounts and lives. How does one recover from this? I don't know. Ask Justin Trudeau to fill in the gaps there. He's got enough money. He's the one who told people to go out and buy homes. Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn. No problem. Just go and buy homes 2021, 2022. Meanwhile, he has a real estate development company. That's not a conflict of interest, is it? If it's not Mark Carney lying, we've got Evan Solomon lying here in the House of Commons, saying that the war in Iran is to blame for job losses. Keep in mind that the war in Iran started on March 1st, and we're talking about job losses in February.
Speaker, as the honourable opposition knows, there's a war raging that's affecting prices everywhere. In this chaos, Canada's in a strong position. Why? Because we prepared. We invested in jobs and industries like auto, steel, and aluminum. We made sure to keep life affordable for all Canadians with our food, groceries, and essentials benefit for 12 million Canadians. We're cutting taxes. You know why, Mr. Speaker? We have a plan. Preparing before a crisis is our way. Complaining after a crisis is theirs. Get on board.
Coming from the dirty art dealer that did an art deal with Mark Carney when he was host of Power and Politics on CBC, of which he got fired for because of his dirty art deals. I don't think I'll be taking any advice from Evan Solomon anytime soon. And here we've got Gregor Robertson blaming the war in Iran for housing prices in Canada.
Member for York Durham.
Little brother. The CMHC spring housing report is out, Mr. Speaker, and the headlines are concerning. Here it is. Condo sales have collapsed. Inventory of all types of housing has surged, and financial conditions have worsened for home buyers. But here's the most concerning thing about that report. It says that Canadians are delaying starting families because of housing unaffordability, delaying marriage, delaying children, the very foundations of our society because they can't afford a home. We've offered one positive solution: remove the GST on new homes for all Canadians. Will the minister commit to doing that today?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's no surprise that Canadians are challenged with buying homes right now when there's a war in the Middle East. There's no surprise, Mr. Speaker.
This guy can't be real. This has nothing to do with that. Sure, if we imported all of our lumber from Iran, then maybe you could make that argument. The lumber comes from Canada. This is all liberal policies destroying this sector.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe his own crap.
The member may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the first 100 days of Build Canada Homes, we've secured agreements with Nova Scotia, with BC, with Nunavut. We're delivering thousands. We're up to 9,000 homes that are being delivered through Build Canada Homes for Canadians.
So he got heckled so bad and realized that the garbage he was putting out there, utter lies, didn't go unnoticed. Thus, he changed his tone there. He didn't mention the Canadians can't buy homes because of the war in Iran.
And we're just getting started, Mr. Speaker. If we pass the Build Canada Homes Act in this House in the days ahead, we can supercharge the construction of affordable housing, and that's what Canadians need.
The Honourable Member for York.
This guy's just unbelievable.
Durham.
Well, Mr. Speaker, an excuse for every problem, but this is a new one. The war in Iran is the cause of our housing crisis. Wow. I mean, I don't know how you figure that, square that circle, Mr. Speaker. And he boasts about 9,000 new homes. He promised 500,000 new homes. That's not even 2% of his target. And guess what? CMHC says only 259,000 were built last year. Only half of the target again. So at the rate that the minister complacently brags about, we'll never hit the target. So we'll will he take our idea and remove GST on all new homes for Canadians?
Moving ahead, we've got a rocky ride here in Canada. We've got Canada Home Construction set for multi-year slump, agency says. I thought they were going to be building double the amount of houses per usual. Didn't they say 500,000 per year? Turns out they're not even getting close to that original target. Not even the old target of 250,000. It says housing starts in Canada are set to decline due to higher construction costs, weaker demand, and elevated levels of unsold inventory. That's right, they built a whole bunch of these tiny condo boxes in Toronto that nobody wants to live in that are 400 square feet. All the investors bought them, but nobody wants to live in them. They're too expensive. This is ridiculous. We've got this one here breaking. Mississauga lender Go Easy has reported $331 million write-down on its sports loans as defaults surge in Canada. Stock plummets 53%. So this is a couple days ago, and it has since continued to plummet. So it went down 53%, then it went down another 25%, and then another 18%. As we see, this stock continues to fall. At one point, this was $214, and just before the bubble popped here, it was $115, and now it's all the way down to $36. Now, the reason this is important is because people are saying this is the canary in the coal mine. This is basically a private lender. They do sports loans, they do mortgages. As Table Salt says here, recreation loans are always the canary in the coal mine. Buckle up. We've also got this one here. Canada's biggest banks have been using blanket appraisals to artificially inflate real estate values. OSFI formally warned Canada's largest financial institutions regarding the use of automated valuation methods to bypass mortgage lending limits. So what's happening here is, say you got a building that's being built. It's a pre-construction. It'll be done in 2 or 3 years, and it's worth $500,000. Somebody agrees to buy it at that rate. They're buying a condo in that building, $500K. 3 years later, the building is complete. The unit is only worth $400,000 based on the market. Well, what the banks are doing is just a blanket appraisal of every unit in the building, and so if they appraise all of them at $500,000, which is inflated based on what it really is, which is say $400,000, you're basically ending up with a bunch of properties stretched beyond their limit. They're essentially overvalued for what they really are. The banks have ratios based on the down payment, the insurance, the payments you're making, interest rate, all of that stuff. And when they overinflate it, it changes all those numbers, all those metrics. When in reality, they shouldn't apply a blanket valuation to everything. They should say that condo is worth $400,000, and now the person who has to buy it has to make up that $100,000 because the bank won't lend them that extra $100,000 to $500K, which they originally budgeted for, and they made the deal with the builder. So they'd have to pay an extra $100,000 on top of their down payment and then get the mortgage for $400K from the bank. But the problem is now is people don't have the extra $100K. They default on their contract. They lose their deposit of $20, $40, $50, $80, whatever $100,000 they've put down. But then if there's a huge gap where there's an extra $100,000, $200,000 or so in value from when they agreed to buy it a couple years ago till now, then the builder will come after people and sue them for that difference. It's a complete mess. And all of this is brought on because Justin Trudeau brought in too many people and allowed foreign buyers to buy too many properties over the last 10 years. And now Mark Carney is just continuing this along. This could easily be solved. They just don't want to solve it. It's good for the banks because if people aren't getting mortgages, then there's less business for the banks. So really, this whole system needs a complete rework. We need to get corporations out of the housing business, period. Not building them, buying them, and renting them. Houses in Canada should be owned by Canadians, not by corporations. And sure, there can be different rules for multiplexes or apartment complexes, but single-family homes should not be owned by Brookfield and BlackRock.